All right, so you're trying to figure out fetch API, trying to figure out how that works. Let me give you a simple and quick answer here. So in here, you see an example. I'm going to explain the best I can to make it really simple and easy for you. All right, so fetch is a new way of requesting data using an API. So what you see here at the very top, line by line here, is basically some code right here. This is a function using a new way of declaring a function. And basically we're saying we're going to load, well, on Windows load, so when the website loads, I call this function fetch movies. Now in Visual Studios I can highlight over here and then I'll see all that in the code. So bam, I see that right here. So it says, okay, we'll load this function. Now in this function, these are my own notes, say, hey, this function is to fetch the data. Okay, so here is the basic things you need. And this is not the only way, but this is a common way and a basic way to fetch data and to bring that data back from an API. So you first need is fetch, and you need these things here, right? And in that, you need the URL is going to. Now here, you'll see we call back ticks. Now the back ticks is the key to the left of the number one key and right up above the tab key to your left. And I'm on the Windows computer. Um, I don't know what that is on Mac. My bad about that, but you can probably just search. But that's like the back tick. And so it's a little different than this right here, which is normally what you normally see if I was just calling the URL. But the reason why I'm using a back tick on the front and the back is because I have my API key listed as a variable, like a const variable. So that means it's not going to change. So therefore it's a const. And const is, I don't know if I'm saying it right. I'm just saying constant, right? But so it's like this is what it looks like, right? So I have that up higher above the code, but really the code starts here really. So instead of me typing in all the whole key and instead of me exposing it here on the video, I'm just gonna put it right there, right? Just like boom, boom. So it puts in this space the actual API key, the whole thing. So um, you need this info. So basically you're telling the browser where specifically, or they call endpoint, to get the data. And then not only that, you're telling it what you need, and then you're also passing in the authentication with the API key, and then you're saying, okay, with networks equals 213. Like all of this you get from the actual website itself. So with this website, this is where the API data is coming from. They have different sources. If you click on API, usually on the bottom of websites, you'll find API data. It's probably why you're watching the video anyway. But uh, here for this one, you actually need to, you know, register, and it's kind of more complicated because you have to be a real business. You can't just be playing around. You have to be a legitimate business right here. At least I think so. But anyway, uh, so once you get the documentation of exactly how you need to be calling what, you have to be clear about what it is, the data you want. And so these are just different endpoints depending on what you want, right? So you basically would plug the URL, which is in this case, I think everything up to this point. Usually it ends with like this question mark, right? And then after that, you have this info, right? And so you see this like with genres equals this part right here usually connects two pieces together, right? You start seeing that. So you see those and signs to kind of pass in the URL specific things you want. Pretty much endpoints, I guess is the best way to say it, right? I don't want to be too complicated. All right, so that kind of gives you that clarity on the URL if you needed that. So basically we're saying, okay, go to this endpoint, get this data. I already know predetermined what the data I want. I know this link works. You can use Postman. I'm not going to go into that, but Postman is just simple. You just basically copy this URL, hit create new request, copy the URL, hit a button, and finish, right? It'll pull data. I'm going to show you that later. Oh, not Postman. I'm going to show you the data later. After that, right? So now we're actually going to the endpoint. The next part is this part here. Go to the endpoint, then, right? So if you have Visual Studio Code, you can just hover over those parts you don't understand and see if it gives you intelligent information about what's actually going on, what's happening. So this one is a callback. It says then my response. Okay, we know we're gonna get a promise back. We're not just getting data. This the way this works is you're gonna get a promise, and that's gonna be a response here that we're talking about. So what is the response from the promise? So then response, keep all the syntax here, you just kind of pay attention there. We're going to call the function then. It says if the response is okay, and that completely determines if this URL is correct and the API is correct, then return this right here. All right, so I'm going to say it like this. If response, okay, wait, this is saying if response is okay, return data in JSON format. Now what that means is the way it's going to actually be organized, the data, it's going to be a lot more, you know, easier for you yourself to read and to pick through exactly what it is you want. All right, so if you don't understand that part yet, it's best just to request it in a JSON format first, understand it, and then for whatever weird reason you might want the data raw, then you know to just say, give me the doggone data raw. So here it says I'm going to the endpoint, and then uh, okay, I'm saying then response do something. Okay, I guess it's the best way I can do it. I'm trying to make this real simple, line by line, because understanding this stuff is simple as you can. So some of the stuff, it might not make 100% sense yet, but line by line, this is what's happening. All right. So now, so far, we've got said return my data in JSON. Don't play games. Give me my stuff formatted. Now, if it's not okay, else throw error. Okay, something went wrong. It's probably not that good of an error, but we don't know what that something is. We don't know if it's the API key is jacked up. We don't know if like the URL is just wrong. We don't know if you have some special character in there. We don't know if the endpoint and everything is correct, but the endpoint is no longer up. We don't know. So something went wrong. So if response is not okay, then throw this error. So basically what it's going to do is just basically just like it throws it. So it throws it out of the code, but the code continues and say, okay, something wrong. It throws the error, but you don't see it yet. It's just throwing it. So then it continues going on. It says then data. It won't even run this because we're going through this kind of scenario here, right? We're assuming that the response is not okay, and it's going to error say, hey, yo, something went wrong, but you're not going to see it. You haven't going to see it yet because you need this part right here. So it's going to skip this part because there's no data. Something went wrong. There's nothing coming in, and now we're going to catch that information and going to give you the data and say, okay, catch error dash underscore data. Sorry, not dash, underscore. And then console log. This right here is where you actually see the information. All right, this part right here. So I'm going to make a little bit of a oopsie here. Hopefully this goes through right. I hate when I show stuff and things don't work right and I have to try to figure it out. So here I have the project open. It's like a Netflix clone like thingamajiggy, so I've been using this to show you, right? Something went wrong. Wonderful. See what I'm saying? So it threw it out and then something went wrong, and then if you're really trying to troubleshoot your API issues, just pay attention to what it says here. Failed to load resources. Okay, this isn't coming from me. It's coming from the API source, or it's coming from the browser, sorry. The server responded with a status of 404. All right, so the server itself responded to 404, and then basically what you do is you go to the internet and you search failed to load resources, the status is 404. And this is how you start troubleshooting, right? This is how you start saying like, dang, what the heck is going on? You go over here, right, and you go like that, and you probably put a Stack Overflow, and then somebody would give you probably some really long or really hard to understand explanation about it, right? So you have to go sift through all that information. That's how that works. But slide on back to the code, and then I'm going to hit Control Z. I don't know what it is on a Mac. I'm sorry. I should probably get a Mac just so I can tell you that. I know it's not cool, right? I don't have a Mac, but anyway. Now the response should be all fine. I'm going to hit save, right? And now we're going to go through this part. So response is okay. Now, honestly, you don't need these parts. You don't need like, okay, catch it, there's an error, something went wrong. You don't really need that part, you know. But if like the bare minimum, you can probably remove this, and you can probably just remove that and just keep this response in JSON and say, all right, once I get the response, my response is a promise. But it's going to sorry, let me just do this here. So I'm gonna get the response. Hey, everything's okay, man. You got the right link, you got the right API, you're good. And then after that, you're gonna return a response in JSON format. But what you're getting back is a promise. Okay, a promise, and a promise is an object, and it's also going to bring back the data. All right, so you don't have to fully understand that yet. Just in your head, you know, bouncing around. So someday in the world, someday you look at the code, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, I got you now. So, but it's actually going to return with some data still. All right, but now we need to say, okay, what you gonna do to data? This isn't enough. It's not enough just to stop there, because we just got a promise, right? So then we say, okay, good. Now, what do you want me to do with that data? Okay, now, then, data, right? And then want to say, hey, okay, so basically it's saying with the data, basically what this function is saying is with the data, do this, all right? Do this with the data, right? And so what this is saying to run, is calling another function, okay? It's called another function, and like I said, in Visual Studio's code, if you go highlight that, you can see what the other function is. Voila. All right, so all three of these functions are being used now. So we said pop, pop, and then now we're like over here. Boom. Now this part here is a little bit advanced, so just kind of stay with me here. So it's saying with the data, do this. And so it's saying, okay, run this function, but take this data that's in here and pass that data into this movie. So movies isn't declared anywhere in this code at all. It's not anywhere. So the only thing you can see movies is part of something here, here, and here, right? So movies has no value. It has no, it's nothing assigned to it. So it's just an empty value. So it's just there to accept value. So now in this case, we said we're gonna stuff now movies with the data that we're calling in from the API. So now the function itself is going to the function is going to run now with that data, and then it's going to do all this good wonderful stuff, now having data to do it with. And so one of the things it needs that data to do is it needs this URL right here, and it needs this particular word right here. So in the API, the name of the data is movie, because we got the data, right? So we got data coming in and then going into movies. Now we say, okay, now call. I'm sorry, that's all wrong. That's all wrong. This is the one I was trying to point to here. Movies dot results, okay? And the results, you're not gonna see it here, but you're gonna see it more in the data, okay? This part is a little bit more off the scope of the video. This right here should give you the goods right here, because when we start saying, okay, now we got the data, now we start trying to append the data to elements in the HTML document. This right here is a whole 2 or 3 video series to kind of break it all down, make it real simple, okay? But I just want to show you that extra piece so you kind of have the flow of everything. All right, so just to rewind, you when the window first starts, it says, okay, on load, run this function, and this is the function. And it says, all right, I want you to go to this endpoint, then response do something. That doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying. Like on the response, do something. If the response is okay, basically I want you to return the function in a JSON format. Or else, if it's not okay, then throw this error. It's going to throw it, and once it throws it, it's going to catch it down here. But just say everything's okay. Everything's okay. Then I want you to do this with the data. Take this data and put it in. Take this data, put it in this function, and when you do this right here, when you say add movies and you have these 2 parentheses, you're calling on that function. Basically, you activate or trigger the function to behave, or the code to go to this function and begin executing the instructions inside the function. But it's going to execute those instructions inside the function with this data that we've passed into it. All right, and then so some of the other stuff we need to have in here to kind of link the data to know what is what, and to actually, you know, link the data. All right, so let me show you this really quick. If you're not already off this video, so I'm gonna say console.log data. I'm gonna show you this, and I'm gonna end it pretty much with this, right? I'm gonna hit save because that's what I do, and then let's go over to this example. All right, so the data wasn't there. Now you can see it's there, and then you see what we have here. We have a, see what I'm saying, movies dot results. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, well, you see what I'm saying. All right, so this is the data. So this is the results, and then specifically these are the items. So if I on a sort of an advanced tip, if I wanted to go into here, I said movies, because I gave the data. It's no longer called data, it's called movies. So movies dot results dot original name, right? If I wanted to pull this name, and I would append the value of title. If I had a title element, a text element, this actual thing, movies dot results dot original name, and then I'll make it equal to, or assign the value. I say equal to, I know it's bad, but I assign the value, and then it'll show up here as a text. Sorry, because you see how it's a string. It's a string here with the parentheses. Excuse me, trying to hold back a sneeze. All right, so that's what pull that. So I don't have to change that. Whenever that changes on the data, it changes, right? So that's how that goes, but it's a little bit more advanced. But that's the basics of how to kind of pull information from an API into your application, basically into your browser, and then in the browser storage, you're going to be able to append things to your elements, and that's how the data will flow. All right, so hopefully that helps clear some things up. If you have questions, I try to be open to questions as much as possible. I do currently, I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this, but I do currently do tutoring for JavaScript. So if you just really need somebody to kind of help give you that boost, I can help you do that. Also, I have some video courses coming out, and also I do some freelance work, and I just build products and services myself, and I just sell them to entrepreneurs or to people or to straight to business, right? So I got my hands full in doing things, right? So I want to create this video, help eliminate some frustration for somebody. Leave me a comment or like below if that's what you feel like you want to do, or subscribe. Thank you.